what are some of the most important military offensives conducted by the occupation army in Gaza in the past year? And how did they influence this, of course, tragedy of the war?
Israel has escalated its military operation in Gaza Strip to a level of genocide. Since the very beginning of this offensive on the Gaza Strip, Israel expressed very clearly that it does not see the Palestinian population as human beings. Both Gallant and Netanyahu have been quoted using the term human animals in reference to the Palestinian population in the Gaza Strip. And indeed, they have used their massive army to massively destroy the Gaza Strip, to kill dozens of thousands of innocent civilians, to displace the overwhelming majority of the Palestinian population in the Gaza Strip, whether internally or they tried as much as they could to displace all of them abroad, but they couldn't. But they displaced them internally quite significantly. They destroyed all of the universities, most of the schools. They attacked most of the hospitals, and they targeted a lot of the doctors and nurses and
True, sir.
As well as ambulance workers. So Israel has actually conducted a fully fledged genocide.
Plus the reach of humanitarian aid to the Palestinians and the Gaza Strip has become very difficult, sir, which is another very important obstacle that they are facing. Sir, why do you think
Indeed.
Global public opinion has shifted in the past year in favor of the Palestinian cause?
I think very significantly. Since the beginning of this offensive on Gaza Strip, since the people around the world started witnessing through different types of media, whether news channels, but also through social media, the people started witnessing the continuous offensive on the civilian targets. It was very clear what Israel was doing from the very early stages. And this has actually moved the populations around the world, especially those who are seeking peace and justice, to demonstrate in the streets, to be loud about their opposition to this genocide. And this has continued until today. But we've also noticed also a shifting position when it comes to international politics and international law institutions.
Sir,
so
after...
we have...
Sorry, continue, sir. Continue.
So, for example, we saw that the International Criminal Court, that has been very late in addressing Israeli crimes, finally, as a result of this offensive on Gaza, the prosecutor decided to request arrest warrants against Netanyahu and Gallant. Similarly, the International Court of Justice, as a result of the South Africa versus Israel case, has examined the genocide and has found that it's plausible that Israel is in fact conducting and committing genocide in the Gaza Strip, and therefore ordered a number of provisional measures. In addition to that, there is the Nicaragua versus Germany case, which is linked also to Palestine. It's when Nicaragua went to the International Criminal Court and argued that Germany is aiding Israel while Israel is conducting genocide, as well as a number of war crimes and crimes against humanity. These cases are expected to continue in the next few years, and I believe that they will significantly affect the framework of discussion when it comes to Israel's relationship with the Palestinian people and the occupied territory. But we've also have had this very important advisory opinion by the International Court of Justice, which actually declared that the Israeli occupation in the occupied Palestinian territory is indeed illegal, and that Israel is holding a regime of apartheid and racial segregation in the occupied Palestinian territory, and that the Israeli occupation should end as soon as possible. these legal elements that have developed, partly, at least, for the advisory opinion, I would say partly as a result of the war, but for the three other cases that I mentioned, directly as a result of this genocide, are going to inform our diplomatic work in the future and human rights defense in the future for the Israeli offense.
Sir, when
not
do
only on
you
the Gaza.
foresee an end to this genocide that's taking place against the Palestinians and, of course, escalation that's taking place in Lebanon, making it the entire Middle East at this point? How can we stop? How can the international community react as soon as possible to stop what's going on?
I have a simple answer. Sanctions. The international community has to abide by international law, which provides an obligation for every state around the world to sanction the state that is conducting genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity, to take every step possible. And indeed, the International Court of Justice has actually ordered this action out of the international community in its advisory opinion. And as a result of this, we've had the recent, in September, the General Assembly of the United Nations issued a resolution that also calls for sanctions and mandates the General Secretary of the United Nations to report back to the General Assembly on the progress of these sanctions. So I think that the snowball of sanctions has indeed started rolling, and it is important at this point for our diplomacy, I would say, of the countries that really care about international law, about human rights, about the victims of war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide, to act very actively to follow the conduct of every individual state in the world when it comes to sanctions. This is an obligation in international law.